So today we want to talk about the nursery rhymes that exist in the financial world, whether it's buy term and invest the difference, which by the way, it sounds really good. And A.L. Williams, with that one line, changed the generational wealth of the Williamses probably for like 200 or 300 years. I'm not saying it's wrong, but it certainly don't pass the test of time when you consider the fact that the stock markets go up and down and eventually term policies run out and people outlive them. But today, what we're going to talk about is compound interest overrated, debunking the myth. Well, I don't know if it's overrated or not, but I'm coming more from a place of how it is presented to the average consumer and how they're interpreting the information. So the first thing that we need to understand is understanding compounding interest, exploring its benefits and limitations, and discussing the power of interest in growing investments over time. So if we look at the magic of compounding interest, that sounds really good, but it's not like a static, hey, here's 100 grand and every year it's going to go up 8%, but they'll use the words an average rate of return over 8% over a 10, 20, 30 year period. But you have to remember, in averages, it goes up and down. It doesn't just go straight up. So if you're going to compound interest, you also have to look at the other side of that, and that's compounding taxes. You have to compound inflation. You have to compound fees. For example, let's say if I have 100 grand and for 10 years it averages 7%, that means it's worth $200,000 10 years later. Then to have a true calculation, you want to say to yourself, okay, what were the taxes I had to pay along the way? What were the fees I had to pay along the way? And what does inflation look like on that? Because 10 years later, if it's worth 200 grand, it may say 200, but after inflation, it may have the buying power of 160,000. So there's a lot of things that factor into that specific nursery rhyme of the magic of compounding. And then, no, listen, if you're on this watching right now and you're 40, 50, 60 years old and somebody says, yeah, you got to start off earlier, that doesn't help you. You're 40. You're not 20 anymore. Of course, we got to start earlier. But to all you 20-year-olds out there, even below or a little bit higher, don't hang out with people that aren't going to make you better at what you do, and start saving money right now, because the fact is the magic of compounding will help you more than anybody else, because the longer you're doing it, the more time there is to let this money grow in a way that compound could be really impactful and positive. If you're in your 40s and 50s, it's a little bit harder. Yes, typically the 40, 50-year-old makes more money. However, and they could dump more in, but they're also exposed to a level of risk that you at 20 aren't exposed to. And then, we always want to talk about the misconception that compound interest alone guarantees financial success, because it doesn't. I don't care if I'm 30, I put $20,000 a year away for the next 30 years. When I get to retirement, if it's all in a 401k, not only am I exposed to taxes on the way out, but I'm also exposed to, I have to become a financial planner. Who's going to show me how to manage that money? The people that ran the 401k didn't even show me. They just gave me different choices. But now I'm left to my own devices with a bigger pool of money. Who's going to show me how to protect myself from sequence of returns rate risk? How to understand at any given point what the tax code is during the time of my distribution? These are all important things to understand. And this doesn't happen overnight, which is why you always want to make sure that your right hand is speaking to your left hand when it comes to exactly understanding all of the financial products that you have and the financial professionals that are actually referring this business to you, or these strategies, I should say. So let's also talk about factors influencing compounding interest effectiveness. And we want to really understand the impact of interest rates and compounding periods on an overall return basis. What does that mean? Well, what does it look like over 10 years versus 20 versus 30? What does it look like with what the market's doing in each one of those decades? I mean, we always talk about the S&P since 1980 averaged about 12% a year. However, within each year, it also averaged a decline of 14%. So think about that. Each year, there's some kind of emotional crisis that if somebody has money and they're getting nervous, they may pull the money out at the wrong time because of the very nature of sequence of returns rate risk. It's important to understand that behavioral finance is a disease that is meant to destroy your money. We also want to understand how economic factors can affect compounding outcomes. Obviously, if we're in a recession right now, obviously if taxes are higher and or interest rates are higher, for example, as we speak, interest rates may be at 7%, where even 2 years ago they were about 1%. So 2 years ago, we weren't running out of, if you had a fixed amount of income every month, we weren't running out of money at all. But now, because of gas and because of food, we're now running out of money by the 20th of every month if we have just a fixed amount. So it's important to understand how the economy that is so situational, that lives in its own seasons, unless we're investing in that real estate between our ears and learning how to buy alternative investments and learning how to put ourselves in a position to prosper while we're still working at 9 to 5 by having other alternative forms of income, we're going to be exposed to those things that we can't control. And then once again, I just touched on it, assessing alternative investment strategies. Okay, what does that look like? What is the alternative strategy? Is it rental real estate? Okay, how are you going to go find the rental real estate? How are you going to know it's the right piece of property? Who's going to help you decide to do that? What is your cash flow going to be? Where's your down payment going to come from? I see videos where people say, cash in your 401k, go buy this piece of property. It'll be worth $2 million 30 years later or 20 years later. Don't do it if that's what they're saying. However, if in fact you're educated, you have the right team around you, you've identified a property or properties, and you could take a loan from a 401k, that is a separate conversation with your professionals, with your financial team that can help you get to a situation to make a good decision on that. It's important to know what that looks like. And listen, alternative investments could be a business that you buy, right? Let's say you're really good in sales. Let's say you understand how to really develop a sales team and give them language on how they can become better at sales from an influence standpoint, because at the end of the day, it's all about integrous influence. Because if you don't have integrity, but you're good at influence, you could sell bad stuff to people. However, if you have integrity and you understand influence, you can move people from hello to yes and get them in a position to purchase what you have to offer, not so much if, but how much they're going to do. And that's a different place, and it comes down to building the right level of rapport, understanding that once you build that rapport, they know that you trust them because you have to trust them, or they have to trust you, I should say, and that you genuinely care about them. And once they know that, you now have leverage, which allows you to disrupt their current pattern. If, in fact, you could disrupt the pattern, because remember, don't run around telling everybody what they're doing wrong without giving a strategy on what they could do it right. We always say, define the problem in solvable terms. And if you're a business owner, don't have a bunch of people around you that tell you everything that's going wrong without a solution, because if you get somebody that's telling you what's going wrong 3 times a day with no solution, get rid of them. They're going to rob your jewelry. Get them out of the house right now. Don't even keep them around. Define the problem in solvable terms. And then always watch out for the passive-aggressive employee that wants you to depend on him, allows things to fall apart so you have to ask for their help. They could be the most insidious person in your organization. It really comes down to understanding what is traditional financial planning, term and invested difference 401k. What is non-traditional? Hey, you could still buy term. You could still have a 401k up to a match, but you could also purchase real estate, or you could be someone that buys businesses, or someone that invests in alternative investments. And what does that second part look like? Who's on your team? How are they helping you make decisions? And it's been my experience, the folks that really are in the space of alternatives, that are educated, learn from their mistakes, continue to get better, they create generational wealth, right? So one of the things that we love to do is overfund, not fund, but overfund a cash value whole life insurance plan that allows that entrepreneur, if you're watching us, to leverage that money to go buy these other investments, knowing these other investments are going to pay back the policy. And this is where you hear people talk about become your own bank, right? There's a lot of agents that are starting to catch on to this and are no longer embarrassed over the same insurance product that they sell. They actually are owning it because of the way we're funding it, and they're excited because it's so good from a actuarial standpoint as an investment, but it's not an investment from a standpoint of an investment mindset as you use the money for alternatives. They themselves are starting to get all over YouTube, but they don't have the team behind them that could show you how to execute, which is my next point. Go ahead, click the link below, set up a time to speak with one of the folks here at Epic. They'll take you through the success process. There's no obligation on your part. They will show you how to overfund the policy so you can now use this money for alternatives, help you put money back in your pocket where it belongs, create that post 9-to-5 job, and create acceleration by turning decades into days, really standing on the shoulders of others so you too can live that American dream and feel very confident and be able to do things like what you want, when you want, how you want, with who you want, without any financial or time constraints. Anyway, thanks for checking me out. Can't wait to see you next time.